Every map showed it, but no one found it. Sailors searched, satellites failed. The deeper they searched, the stranger it became. Somewhere in the Coral Sea, between the eastern coast of Australia and the French territory of New Caledonia, there is a patch of open water marked on official charts, government databases, and digital maps for over a century as solid land. It has a name: Sandy Island, Île de Sable in French, Isla Arenosa in Spanish. It has a shape: long and narrow, stretching roughly 15 miles from north to south, about 3 miles across. It has coordinates precise enough to sail to. It has appeared in one form or another on maps trusted by navies, governments, and millions of ordinary travelers. And it has never, at any point in recorded history, actually existed. The story begins on September 14th, 1774. Captain James Cook, charting the waters of the South Pacific aboard his ship, recorded something unusual at a specific latitude and longitude. A sandy landmass he labeled simply Sandy 1 on his official chart of discoveries. A century later, in 1876, a whaling ship called the Velocity reported sighting the same island in roughly the same location. That sighting was enough. By 1908, the British Admiralty had added Sandy Island to one of its official nautical charts, a document used by sailors across the world to navigate safely through unfamiliar waters. From there, the island took on a life of its own. It appeared in scientific atlases. It appeared in the Times Atlas of the World, one of the most respected geographic references on the planet. It appeared on a 1982 chart produced by the United States Defense Mapping Agency, a part of the American military responsible for ensuring the accuracy of navigation for the U.S. Armed Forces. A military agency tasked specifically with geographic precision listed an island on its official records that, as far as anyone has ever been able to determine, was never actually there. By the late 20th century, some hydrographers had begun to suspect something was wrong. Repeated attempts by ships to locate the island at its charted coordinates kept coming back empty. Nothing but open ocean where solid ground was supposed to be. In 1974, the French Hydrographic Service quietly removed Sandy Island from its official charts after an aerial survey failed to find any trace of land. The Australian Hydrographic Service followed in 1985 after its own investigation reached the same conclusion. Two separate government agencies on two separate continents had each independently decided the island didn't exist, and somehow that conclusion still wasn't the end of the story. You would think that once two national hydrographic agencies formally erase an island from their charts, the matter would be settled. It wasn't. Sandy Island kept reappearing. Not on paper this time, but somewhere far more powerful and far more trusted by the average person. Digital maps. As cartographers in the 20th century began converting old paper charts into digital databases, feeding decades of historical map data into early geographic information systems, Sandy Island's coordinates were copied over along with everything else. No one flagged it as an error. No one cross-checked it against the agencies that had already declared it non-existent. It was absorbed into something called the World Vector Shoreline Database, a foundational dataset used by mapmakers around the world as a base layer of trusted coastline data. And once an error enters a dataset that other databases pull from, it doesn't just persist, it multiplies. By the early 2000s, Sandy Island had been quietly inherited by Google Earth and Google Maps, appearing as a dark, lens-shaped polygon sitting in open ocean, visible to anyone in the world who zoomed into that stretch of the Coral Sea. National Geographic's published maps carried the same error. Major scientific reference databases used by researchers carried it too. In 2000, a small group of amateur ham radio operators traveled to the genuinely real Chesterfield Islands nearby, and during their trip, they noticed something strange: satellite imagery from NOAA, the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, showed nothing but deep blue ocean exactly where Sandy Island was supposed to be. They wrote directly to National Geographic, pointing out the discrepancy. The response they received was almost casual in its honesty. The maps for that region were, in the company's own words, hopelessly outdated, and yet nothing changed. The island remained. Sailors could plot a course directly to its coordinates. Students could find it in textbooks and atlases. Anyone with an internet connection could zoom into Google Maps and see a clearly defined island sitting exactly where Captain Cook had marked it 238 years earlier. It would take another 12 years, and a research vessel with no intention of investigating the island at all, to finally put the question to rest. In November 2012, an Australian research vessel called the Southern Surveyor set out on a 25-day scientific expedition through the Coral Sea. The mission had nothing to do with Phantom Islands. The crew, marine geologists from the University of Sydney, led by researcher Maria Seaton, was there to study tectonic activity and map the ocean floor. Their official navigational charts showed something that immediately caught their attention. At one specific location along their route, the recorded seafloor depth was listed at well over 4,000 feet below the surface. That number was strange for one simple reason. According to the very same charts, that exact location was supposed to be land. Sandy Island. The crew grew curious enough to investigate directly. As they approached the marked coordinates, their onboard equipment told them the water beneath the ship was nearly 4,300 feet deep. A depth that made the existence of any island, sandbar, or shallow reef at that location completely impossible. Looking out at the ocean around them, they saw nothing but open water in every direction. No coastline, no sandbar, no reef breaking the surface. Yet according to the ship's own navigation charts, they were sailing directly across the middle of an island the size of Manhattan. Maria Seaton later described checking the data simply because the depth reading seemed unusually deep for an area marked as land. A small, almost routine moment of scientific caution that ended up settling a mystery more than a century old. Subsequent seafloor mapping by the Australian Hydrographic Service confirmed it in full. The ocean floor in that exact area ranged from roughly 1,488 to 2,353 meters deep, nearly a mile and a half of open water in some places, where an island the length of 15 miles was supposed to sit. There was no shallow reef, no submerged sandbank, no geological feature of any kind that could explain how generations of cartographers had marked solid ground at this precise location. Within weeks, Google removed the island from its maps entirely. National Geographic corrected its records. The discovery made international headlines, not because scientists had found something new, but because they had definitively erased something that had never been real in the first place. The most unsettling part of the Sandy Island story isn't that a phantom landmass existed on paper for over a century. It's how easily and how thoroughly an unverified observation became treated as established geographic fact, repeated by institutions that prided themselves on precision. Researchers studying the case afterward proposed one possible explanation for the original 1876 sighting that started it all: pumice rafts. When underwater volcanoes erupt, they can release massive, floating mats of lightweight volcanic rock, pumice, that drift across the ocean surface for months or even years, sometimes spanning areas large enough to be mistaken from a passing ship's deck for solid land. Researchers noted that ocean currents in that exact region are known to funnel these pumice rafts along a consistent path between Fiji and New Caledonia on their way toward Australia. It's possible that the whaling ship Velocity in 1876 genuinely did see something solid floating on the water's surface, exactly where they reported it. It simply wasn't an island. It was a temporary, drifting mass of volcanic rock, gone by the time anyone returned to look for it again. But a single uncertain sighting, recorded once, was enough to seed a fact that would survive for over 136 years. It moved from a ship's logbook to a British Admiralty chart, from that chart into national hydrographic databases, from those databases into the foundational digital files used by Google, National Geographic, and the United States military's own mapping agency. Two separate government hydrographic services formally declared the island non-existent, once in 1974, once in 1985, and the error still survived for another 27 years, copied forward into systems that millions of people, every single day, implicitly trusted to be accurate. It took a ship that wasn't even looking for the island, noticing one inconsistency in a seafloor depth reading, to finally end it. Sandy Island is gone now, erased from the maps that mattered. But the question it leaves behind is harder to erase. If a 15-mile island could exist on official, government-verified charts for over a century without ever being real, what else, sitting on a map right now, hasn't been checked yet? Some maps remember places the world forgot.